I took care of my dying grandma. My parents stole her house, then kicked me out and called me ungrateful. Hi everyone, before we start today's video, I need your help, and subscribing and liking is one of the best ways to help us. It's fast, free, and allows us to keep bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel evolving collectively. Thank you very much. Now let's start the video. When I was 16, my grandma got sick. It started small, missing steps for getting groceries, losing track of days, but within a year she couldn't even get out of bed. The doctors said it was only a matter of time, and my parents didn't want anything to do with it. They said they were too busy with work, that they couldn't deal with hospitals and nursing homes, that she'd lived her life and it was time to move on, but I couldn't do that. She raised me when they didn't care. She was there when I had nightmares, when I scraped my knees, when I needed someone to believe in me. She was my real family, and I wasn't going to abandon her. So I moved into her house. I set up a little cot in the guest room, learned how to give her medicine, how to cook the things she could still eat, how to keep her comfortable even when it hurt me to see her like that. I missed school sometimes, missed friends, missed everything that people my age were supposed to be doing, but I didn't care. I didn't tell anyone, because this was between me and her. This was loyalty, this was love. And every day when she smiled at me, even when she couldn't talk properly anymore, I knew I was doing the right thing. My parents barely called, barely visited. They sent money once every few months, just enough to say they tried, but nothing more. And even when they did come, it was like they were strangers, complaining about the smell, about the noise, about how depressing everything was. Still I kept going. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought they would be grateful. I thought family meant something. I was wrong. About a year before she passed, my grandma started talking about making things official. She said she wanted me to have the house, that it wasn't much, but it was hers, and she trusted me to take care of it, to keep it alive, to maybe raise a family there one day. I told her it didn't matter. I didn't need anything from her, but she insisted. She said people change when money or property is involved, and she didn't want anyone taking what I had earned. We tried to set up an appointment with a lawyer, but she got sick again, hospitalized, and everything got pushed back. We told ourselves there was still time. We believed it because the alternative was too painful to face. Meanwhile, my parents suddenly started showing more interest. They came around more often, acting concerned, bringing food, offering to run errands, but never staying long enough to actually help. It felt fake, but I wanted to believe maybe they realized what they were missing. Maybe they regretted abandoning her. One evening I overheard them talking in the kitchen, whispering too low for me to catch every word, but I heard enough: house ownership, legal rights, inheritance. When I asked them about it, they smiled, said it was nothing, just making sure everything was in order for grandma's sake. They said not to worry, they had it handled. I was too tired to argue, too drained from everything else. I let it go. That was my first mistake. Grandma passed away on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting by her bed holding her hand when it happened. She didn't say anything, didn't give a long speech or a dramatic goodbye. She just squeezed my fingers one last time, and then she was gone. And for a long time I couldn't move. I just sat there in the silence, feeling like the world had stopped spinning. The funeral was small, quiet, mostly distant relatives and old friends I barely knew. My parents handled most of it, which in hindsight should have been my second warning, because they were suddenly so eager to take control, so eager to make decisions. After the funeral they pulled me aside, said we needed to talk about the house, said there were papers to sign, things to settle, legal things, boring things, nothing I needed to worry about. They said they were doing it to protect me. I believed them because I didn't want to believe the alternative. They brought me documents printed and highlighted, rushed me through the pages, told me just to sign here and here and here, no need to read everything. It's standard, it's for the estate, it's what grandma would have wanted, and I was numb, so I did it. I signed without knowing I had just handed them everything. At first nothing changed. They let me stay at the house, told me to rest, take time to grieve, promised that when things settled we would talk about the future. But days turned into weeks, and the way they looked at me started to change. They stopped calling me to check in, they stopped visiting unless it was to pick up old furniture or valuables, and when they did show up they acted like guests, not family. One afternoon my mom knocked on my bedroom door. She had a clipboard in one hand and a forced smile on her face. She said it was time for me to move out, said they needed the house for themselves since their own place was going into foreclosure. They said it wasn't fair for me to take up a whole property by myself, said grandma would have wanted the family to use it properly. I reminded her of all the years I spent taking care of grandma while they were nowhere to be found. I reminded her of the promises, the conversations, the love, but she just shrugged and said blood is thicker than promises. I asked her how she could do this, how they could throw me out after everything, and she laughed, not a warm laugh but a cold, brittle one, and said you should be grateful we're not charging you back rent for all the time you lived here for free. That was the day I realized. I had lost not just my home, but my family too. They gave me 2 weeks to leave, no discussion, no mercy, no chance to explain or fight. It was like I was a stranger squatting in their property, like none of the years I spent wiping grandma's tears, feeding her soup in the middle of the night, cleaning her when she was too weak to move meant anything. I packed my things in silence, my old clothes, my books, my few photos of grandma, while they watched from the doorway, my father with his arms crossed, my mother flipping through her phone like she was too bored to even pretend to feel guilty. The night before I left, I tried one last time. I asked them if they remembered who actually stayed, who actually cared, who actually loved her, but my mom just sneered and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself trying to steal from your own parents like this after everything we've done for you." My father nodded like he agreed, like somehow I was the villain in this story, not the kid who gave up his teenage years to make sure grandma didn't die alone, but the ungrateful parasite they couldn't wait to kick out. They didn't even say goodbye when I left, just locked the door behind me like they were sealing a crime scene. I stood there on the sidewalk, my whole life packed into a beat-up backpack, and realized I had nowhere to go. And no one to turn to. For a while I slept in my car parked behind grocery stores or at the edge of parks where nobody would bother me. I took showers at the gym when I could afford the day pass and spent my nights applying for jobs on borrowed Wi-Fi at coffee shops, pretending everything was fine, pretending I wasn't breaking apart inside. I could have called friends, maybe even distant relatives, but something in me refused to beg, not after everything, not after being treated like garbage by the people who were supposed to care the most. I worked at gas stations, fast food joints, anywhere that would take someone with no address and no one to vouch for him. It wasn't much, but it was mine, it was honest. And every time I felt like giving up, every time the cold seeped through the windows or my stomach growled loud enough to make me dizzy, I thought about grandma. I thought about her telling me when I was little that being good doesn't mean being weak, that real strength is helping others even when you get nothing back. And I swore to myself right there sitting behind a gas station counter counting pennies that one day I would get my own place, my own life. And I would never let them take anything from me again. It wasn't much, just a cramped studio apartment in a bad part of town, the kind of place where the floor creaked and the heater coughed louder than it warmed, but it was mine. The day I got the keys, I sat in the middle of the empty room surrounded by peeling paint and flickering lights, and I laughed, not because it was funny but because it felt unreal, like after everything, after losing my home, my family, my childhood, I still had something left, I still had a future. I bought a mattress off a guy on Craigslist, picked up a cracked coffee table from a thrift store, built a life out of scraps and secondhand hope. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. Every scratch on the wall, every stain on the carpet was mine and mine alone. I worked double shifts, saved every dollar, slept with my wallet under my pillow and my shoes next to the door, because part of me still believed someone might try to take it all away again. But they didn't. Because for the first time, there was no one left to betray me. It had been almost a year since I left, almost a year since I heard their voices or saw their faces, when one day I got a call from an unknown number. Something in me knew before I even picked up who it would be. It was my mother. Her voice was syrupy sweet, fake concern dripping from every word, asking how I was doing, saying they missed me, saying family was too important to let silly things come between us. I didn't say anything. I just listened as she slowly got to the real reason she was calling. Their situation had changed, things were hard, their credit was shot, their debts were piling up, and wouldn't it be nice if I let them stay with me just for a little while, just until they got back on their feet? I almost laughed out loud. After everything, after stealing my home, kicking me into the street, calling me a thief and a burden, they thought I would just forget, they thought they could just walk back into my life like nothing happened. I told her no. Flat no, no explanations, no apologies, no second chances. And for the first time in my life I hung up on her before she could guilt me, before she could twist the story, before she could make me doubt myself. I sat there holding the phone in my hand, heart racing, chest burning. But not from sadness. From freedom. At first I thought that was the end, that they would leave me alone once they realized I wasn't coming back, but I should have known better. Within a week I started hearing things, old friends texting me asking why, my own parents were telling people I had stolen from them, why they were crying to anyone who would listen about how ungrateful I was, how I had abandoned them in their time of need. They painted me like a monster, like a selfish, heartless user who took everything and gave nothing back. Some people believed them, some didn't. It didn't really matter because by then I had learned the truth. I didn't owe them anything. Not my time. Not my forgiveness. Not even my anger. They had already taken enough from me. They could have the pity of strangers if they wanted it. I didn't need anyone's approval to know who I was. And every time I walked into my tiny apartment after a long shift, every time I looked at the scratched coffee table and the threadbare mattress and the battered door and knew that it was mine, I felt stronger. Not because it was easy, but because I had survived them. It's been years now since that night, since the last time I heard their voices or saw their faces. I never went back. I never called. I never explained myself to people who already chose not to believe me. Instead, I built something better. I built a life where loyalty means something, where promises aren't broken, where love isn't just a word thrown around when it's convenient. I have friends now who are more family than my blood ever was, people who know the worst parts of me and stay anyway, people who don't need to steal or lie or destroy to feel powerful. And when I walk into my home now, bigger, better, mine, I see photos on the wall, not of the people who hurt me but of the ones who healed me. I don't think much about my parents anymore. I don't waste time wondering if they regret it or if they even remember. Because in the end, they didn't break me. They just set me free.